Yo, what is up? What is up? I just figured I'd get this started. Uh, y'all don't even know, man. I done grew like 3-4 beards trying to get this process started. And, ain't none of us perfect, so why wait until perfection? And that's interesting, because my definition of perfection I had to dial that in, and a lot of that has to do with the mysteries of histories, but whatever, man. Anyway, so man, I just wanted to connect real quick, and for those of you that don't know, my name's EdWizard, Tabby Loco, hey. And I'm an ambassador with SecretEnergy, soul coaching, really just mature mentorship, mature mentorship. I like that. But anyway, so this is what's been going on, man. About 10 years ago, I had a Kundalini experience, and what ended up happening is that I had brought in some insecurities and some fear while processing that energy, and I had an injury, a spinal injury, and so in that time I started, dealing with a lot of healers, gurus, etc., religion, all types of spirituality, magic, etc. And I came across Savon Beaumont. And so Savon was really the only one. Woo! Check it in the background. I don't know if you see I made that. But Savon was really the one that really understood what I was talking about. And I really understood what he was talking about. And so me and the brother connected. And so for the next 10 years, I've had the honoring of sharing space with homeboy. So through that time, he took off, man. He did what he does and developed SecretEnergy and everything that goes in with that. University, you know what I'm saying? You could check out links somewhere. I'll post them, hopefully. But but that didn't. So there came a time, right, when I started getting introduced to ceremonies. Like, as I was going to meet healers, first it started out with the psychics, with psychics, tarot card readings, Akashic records, and all this other stuff. But see, the thing is that during my Kundalini experience, which didn't just, that lasted for X amount of time, even now, but I had already experienced these things. So when I would come across people that were, basically charging for their services, a lot of it didn't hold water, But here's the thing. I started tapping into a couple cats that did. And so where that ended up leading me was I started getting into entheogens, plant medicines. Now, I call them entheogens so we don't get it twisted. We could say drugs, we could say psychedelics, we could say psychonaut, we could say all this other stuff, but with the enealogy, with the entheogens, it's it's inherent, it's implied that it's for basically spiritual purpose, you know, like the the intention is inherent in that, right? Like that's what the word means. So anyway, so then it started out with the Bufo DMT. Like this is years ago, you know, that 5-MeO DMT, then the ayahuasca, then, you know, like the mushroom, the cactus, like all these different things. And so being a student, I've trained my consciousness to absorb like a sponge, you know, and it took a long time for me to really understand what that process, you know. But so anyway, going through that and adjusting, recalibrating myself. And so about two weeks ago, I'm out walking my dog and I come across this lady named Dr. Helen Hu. And she's a local right here in San Diego. She immigrated to San Diego from China back in the 80s. And she's basically like one of the pillars in traditional Chinese medicine here in San Diego. And she's a acupuncture, herbologist, all of that, you know. And so, see, like okay. So then I go meet her, and this is what she tells me. She's like, "You have a chi spleen deficiency, but it's bad, and it's what we call a sink, like." So basically, let's say every day you have a certain amount of chi, right? QI. And so every day it's like you have like a cup, right? And then you use that throughout the day. And if you don't use it, then it kind of basically gets distilled and transfers into something that you can hold, and then the next day you start again. And basically the idea of all these Taoist immortals and stuff like that is that they save and cultivate that chi, so that when that concentrated form ends up building, right? She wasn't telling me this part, but I've already kind of gotten into those spaces and had looked into that for myself. And so when I had seen her and she started explaining like her diagnosis of me, these are all the correlations that are happening, you know, and this is me getting it like, okay. So basically with this spinal injury, this is what it's like for me. There's this fluid in the spine that is basically attributed to Kundalini. Kundalini is like the energy term for this, I don't know if it's like cerebellum or whatever, but it's the spinal fluid. And this is where this oil or Christ consciousness, etc. comes from. Well, I'm basically leaking that. And so there's a lot of people that know me that when you get around me, especially if I'm blowing, and because I'm primarily in pain all the time because of a fucking spinal injury and, you know, daily stresses and flexing, you know, San Diego, man, we got that fire. So I'm blowing, you know, and so I'll be processing this fluid, right? I'll be co-experiencing it like an entheogen, right? And so I started leaking. So I just start basically being Psychic Eddie, you know? And through time and stuff, you know, I've been able to refine my compassion. I've been able to stay in my maturity, stand in my integrity, and not, you know what I mean? Not cut myself off. Basically, okay, so when she's explaining this and she's like, yo, So you have this deficiency, but it's a sink, meaning like the vase is broke. That's how I took it. And so she's like, okay, so let me get into the spleen a little bit, because some of you guys that don't understand medicine might be looking at it from a Western medicine perspective, which is basically like, this is what Western anything is. It's basically, you take something, you remove the spirit, and whatever's left over is Western. Like that's a good blueprint to approach things. So for instance, with Western medicine, it's not a holistic approach. It's they narrow down in on the problem, and they want to remove the problem. So in their logic, removing the problem means removing the organ part, whatever, you know? So now basically what happened, just a quick history lesson, is people in the West found out about Eastern medicine. Eastern medicine started regaining popularity after being suppressed in the West, and that became alternative medicine, right? And there's still, you know, this word trickery, because alternative means like basically alternative, like an alternative to natural. So the West has established themselves as natural, and they're saying anything that's not natural is alternate. It's, you know, so this is part of the reason why the law does what it does with words, you know. All right, so anyway, so the spleen, right? So in Eastern medicine, and I'm still diving into this, this is part of my diary, you know. I'm not really trying to jump in here as no type of master or nothing. I'm just a student, you know, and I'm a student that's sharing, so that there's a vacuum that's coming up, and I want to do my part, you know. Okay, so the spleen is basically like the stomach, right? So in the West, the stomach gets a lot of credit for what the spleen does. So the stomach breaks down the food, right? The stomach's like this bag that, and I use the term bag loosely. It's really more of a net, because there's actually like these two layers to it. And so you have this bag, and it's like in one side of the bag, the stuff is broken down, and then it basically seeps or soaks through that first layer into the second layer. And the second layer is basically where the credit for the spleen goes to, because that's what takes the life force, right? And we finna get deep real quick, FYI. So now the way in Chinese medicine, there's this season, right? So what happens is you start with spring. So spring is the introduction of, let's say, God, right? And that's when the life force in the food comes into the body. So that's when the spring comes. That's when God makes itself known. Then you have summer, which is basically when that heat comes, when the food starts getting separated. So it goes spring, summer. So that's when the food is getting separated from the spirit energy. So this is part of the process of where the spirit life force, the key gets taken from the food, separated. And then you have the fall, which this is when it starts to come back down, because in that fall period is when the key starts getting transferred to the body, and then what's left goes down into winter and is let go with the waste. So the fresher the food, the more life force it has. So when something dies, right? Like when something like a fruit is picked, or an animal is killed, right? At that point, they're holding all of that life force, that key that they've had up to that point. And they're slowly basically leaking the life force, which is what we know of as rotting, right? Decaying. And basically when they fully decayed, when the fruit has fully spoiled, that's when it doesn't have any life force. So it's dead, right? Completely dead. So when we're eating, we're extracting that life force from the food. So what's happening right now with food is that it gets frozen, it gets preserved, it gets all these other things, and that impacts the natural cycle of the life force energy that we're supposed to be extracting from the food. Okay, so now when, like, I'm into metaphysics, so when we're talking about the role of the spleen with life, so basically, if your diet is chaotic, you're gonna feel chaos around you. And that's pretty much exactly what's been going on. And so she told me, like, look, so like in Ayurvedic stuff, Vedic knowledge, basically India culture, they use food as medicine, right? And so a lot of what China got, they originally got from India. And so in China, like when they say traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, that's an umbrella term for a bunch of different things. Acupuncture is one of them. Qigong is one of them, right? So there's this thing called, what's it called? Man, I should know this. I've been eating this, man. It's a porridge, right? It's like Cody or something like that. I should know this. Anyway, how do I not know that word, man? Anyway, there's this type of porridge basically that is made from rice, and it's like the base factor, right? It's like the base ingredient, and then depending on what the deficiency is and how the body needs to fall back into harmony, into balance, is going to be based on what you add to this. So people have heard about like Chinese herbal medicine, right? Teas, stuff like that. So this is where those would come in at. So there would be certain roots or certain fruits or certain meats or certain XYZs that you add to this porridge, this congee. That's what it is. Congee. Congee. Cody. And that's added to this porridge, and basically like that's something that the body can assimilate. So the way that this lady was telling me, she was like, yo, she didn't say yo, but she was like, hey, so you have too much water, right? Like, so there's this cycling that happens with Chinese medicine to basically restore balance. And she's like, you have too much water, and so you need to add more fire into your diet in order to basically dry up the water so that the earth can reveal itself, and then the earth can give off the life, right? Plants, like the earth will become fertile again. And I'm guessing that's when some type of air balance happens, you know? But it's real interesting because I'm thinking about this and I'm like, yo, it's not only through my diet though, it's through my actions. Like like the thing with metaphysics is that there's all these correlations, right? There's all these entanglements. So I know, like, let's say like my desired end result is to find a balance, right? Well, it's not just doing the diet to get the result of balance. I can also do the action that I'm looking to get when I feel I'm in balance that will also help with that. It's like introducing my own type of fire through action, my own type of passion through art, basically, culture. And that also helps to restore some type of balance, some type of harmony, on the inside, because there's this correlation to the stomach and the universe. Like, you know how like they say like, yo, we're in an egg, right? We're in a zygote or whatever. We're in this egg, right? We're in this cell, we're in this water drop, we're in this stomach, we're in this womb. Like, these are all related. It's the knowledge of the circle, you know what I mean? Knowledge of the zero. Anyway, man, want to keep this short. Just wanted to introduce myself and basically give an update on where I'm at, what I'm working with. And yeah, man, if any of this stuff sounded interesting, check us out, man. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on SecretEnergy, SecretEnergy.com. And, you know, consider joining the university. Consider checking out the ambassador program for a month. For a month, man. A month. That's it. A month. Just check it out. All right, man. Wholeness, balance, vibrations. Much honor, gratitude, appreciation. I hope.